Good morning. I call the November 17th, 2021 meeting of the RDA TDD Steering Committee meeting to order. I'm going to, let's see. The agenda will be number one, welcome and introductions.
Sure. If we could ask all of the members of the committee who are present to identify themselves.
I'll start off. My name is Trent McCain. I'm the Deputy Mayor of the City of Gary, and I have the privilege of serving as chairman of this committee.
Brian Poland, representing the City of Hammond.
Scott Jefferson, representing the town of Dyer.
Tim Corcoran, representing the City of South Bend.
AJ Monroe, representing the City of Portage.
Richard Morris Road, City of East Chicago.
Is that everyone from the committee? If the RDA staff would introduce themselves, we'll start with the CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sherry Zeller here, President and CEO of the RDA. And I think on staff, we have Amy Jacobin, and then you all heard from Dave Wallman earlier. So let's go to Policy Analytics.
Hi, everyone. This is Bill Sheldrake from Policy Analytics.
Good afternoon, morning. This is David Reynolds with Policy Analytics.
Good. And then KPMG.
Good afternoon, Vince Dolan with KPMG.
Okay, that might be it from KPMG. And then lastly, MKSK.
Hello, everyone. Aaron Kowalski, MKSK. Good to be with you.
Thank you very much. Good to be with all of you. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from August 18th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the meeting minutes from August 18th, 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, Madam Clerk. Or Madam Secretary?
Sure. Certainly, I can handle that. Mr. Corcoran.
Here.
Is that a vote in favor of the motion?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, vote in favor.
No worries.
Mr. Barry. Michael must have dropped off. Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mr. Morrisroe.
Yes.
Mr. Poland.
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson.
Yes.
Chairman McCain.
Abstain.
Okay. And also Leanne Mellon from Munster is on the call. She's been having some trouble with her audio, however.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I will vote yes. Thank you.
All right, that's everyone.
Welcome and thank you. Item 3 on our agenda is RDA updates on rail projects by Sherry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to be with you all today. Today, we have an update presentation for you all on the work that we've been doing. So let me just kind of tee that up and then I'll go into the rail projects update. So As you may recall, NICD was awarded an FTA grant for TOD planning and subsequently awarded a contract to MKSK, who's with us today. It's really to continue to work with our local communities to identify their needs and do that planning as the next phase. And NICD and the RDA were acting as co-managers of this process. And then MKSK has since assembled a team of sub-consultants, and they have begun holding their kickoff meetings with various communities. So later on in the presentation, MKSK will present an update to the steering committee. And then also later on in the presentation, we've been holding what we're calling industry days. And those are for our communities, and it's a way for developers to listen in. They can join in on the conversation, kind of a one-on-one format. So our communities can have the opportunity to present their development goals to the private investors in order for that connection to be established, and also for future discussions to continue to happen as development and progress occur on the rail project. So what we want to do there is give you an update on how those industry days have been going. And then lastly, we'll give you a look into 2022 activities, and then we'll end with some housekeeping items. So I think that tees it up, and I'll just go ahead and move right into the rail projects update. So as everyone knows that we've been reporting on in the past, both rail projects have achieved the full funding grant agreement status. They're continuing to progress towards construction. So we'll start with Westlake here. I'll go through this kind of quickly, but the design builders continuing with their final design. They've delivered several design packages to NICD for their review in the third quarter.
Yeah, I can do
and physical construction that is still on track to start in the 2022 construction season. So that's very exciting. An update here that I don't know was on the last presentation. So the city of Hammond, they executed financial commitments for the grade change it's going to accommodate a future downtown Hammond station and also the Russell Street pedestrian tunnel. And then as of October 10th, just kind of go through some numbers here. Design is at about 67-68% complete. 44 of the 45-60% design packages they've been received. 38 45 90% design packages have been received, and 11 45 100% design packages have been received. So that is Westlake. I might stop here, see if there's any questions on Westlake. Okay, right. Okay, I think we can move into double track then, which should be the next slide. So with double track, construction has been divided into 7 construction packages. NICD, to date, they've awarded 4 procurements and are receiving bids for the 3 remaining procurements, and they're classified as DT1, which is the very large construction project, DT4, and then DT6. So just a quick update there where those stand. That main construction contract, DT1, received bids from Passion and Walsh on October 11th for the revised scope that includes the value engineering opportunities to reduce the cost. And Walsh Construction was the low bidder. They came in at $304.8 million. And then for DT4, 3 bids were received, and that happened on November 4th. Larson Danielson, they were the low bidder at $2.9 million. And then for DT6, NICD received bids on October 19th, and ZoRail was the low bidder. So that's double track. And I'll pause here to see if there's any questions for double track.
I have a question, Sherry.
Sure.
With the double track, the 3 remaining procurements, does that include the contract that was awarded to Hassey Construction, or does that account for that?
the contract that was awarded to Hassie. I wonder if Vince, I think you're out there from KPMG, he keeps track of the procurements. Vince, do you have an answer to that question?
Yes, I believe that was the case. They were one of, I think they were either contract DT5 or DT3. I just can't remember which.
Okay.
But yes, all
Thank
the
you.
contracts have been bid.
Thank you.
Okay, good question. Any other questions for Double Track or Westlake? Okay, Mr. Chair, that concludes the rail update portion. And if you are okay with it, I think we can just keep moving along. And I'm going to hand it over to Aaron. And he can give the FTA TOD grant update.
Thank you. And please proceed.
Thank you very much. So wanted to provide you all with an update on the RDA NICD TOD project, as Sherry mentioned. So Dave, if you want to switch to the next slide, please. I know that we've given a couple updates to you all on this in the past, but just to recap, you know, this is different than the TDD district boundaries that we've created for many of the communities in both the Westlake and Double Track areas, as well as the South Shoreline, but they're being informed by the boundaries that we've created. So what we're doing is transit-oriented development planning. And as many of you know, TOD is walkable development within close proximity of public transport that maximizes the amount of residential, business, and open space. And what we've been doing is working with what we call Group A of the communities, and I'll go through kind of who those folks are in a moment, but looking at identifying planning needs, and we're thinking of this project and process as strategic implementation planning, so helping communities advance work that's been done already to effectuate TOD and in some cases good quality corridor development connected to the transit stations along both lines. Next slide, please. And then just a recap on the scope of work we're conducting. We're doing land use planning for communities to advance future land use that could go into comprehensive plan updates. We're evaluating zoning needs and putting forth recommendations for zoning updates that the local communities could then take and adopt so that they're ready on both a land use and zoning perspective for the kind of development that we anticipate coming following on the rail project. We're coordinating closely with NICD through this project and process and understanding exactly where they are in their design and engineering on both the Double Track and Westlake, as well as using this as an opportunity to inform some of those designs as they're completed. And within each community, we're going to be doing kind of specialized planning activities in addition to land use, development, and zoning planning, as well as capital project planning. And that's something that we'll be identifying over the next couple of weeks and months as we meet with those communities. All of that work will go into capital project planning, which will establish the cost of infrastructure improvements, as well as anticipated development that could occur and the cost of that development, as well as what that development could provide from an economic development and population perspective to these areas. And we're identifying performance metrics through this process to understand both now how we're able to advance the work and the goals of the community, but then we'll also be coming back after this project concludes to test out you know, some of the progress that's been made. And really the goal here is to advance development readiness of communities in Northwest Indiana. Next slide, please. This is a year-long schedule. We're a few months into it. We'll be working on this through the end of July of 2022. As I mentioned, we've got a couple groups. We're kind of well into Group A at this point. We're getting ready to kick off Group B, and I'll explain what that is in a moment. And we have a number of tasks. So I went through those scope items here a moment ago. Those were assigned to a task. So we're kind of beginning these tasks and we're running parallel with our consultant team. So in addition to MKSK, we have Shrewsbury Associates looking at civil and infrastructure engineering, as well as capital projects. We have Metric Environmental looking at brownfields, And we have Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative out of Tennessee looking at zoning. Next slide. Group A, you'll see the communities labeled in yellow here. So we've been meeting and working closely with the town of Munster, the city of Hammond, city of Portage, and the city of Michigan City. And we've concluded a couple meetings with them. We're well underway in understanding the priorities of the communities from a planning perspective, as well as a strategic implementation perspective. And we're getting ready to start Group B, which I'll explain here in a moment. But first, I want to give you a brief overview on Group A process and progress. Next slide. So what we've done so far, so we've been working with Munster, Hammond, Portage, and Michigan City as our Group A. We've done field work and recon to determine and confirm current conditions. We've done what we call a leadership kickoff meeting. So that's with both community planning staff as well as town manager, mayor's office, elected officials, folks like that, to make sure everybody understands exactly what this process is and what we can offer. And then from there, we've done some planning gaps and opportunities analysis to confirm the focus of this TOD planning and implementation effort. We've done in-person planning gaps and opportunities workshops with these communities, sat down for 2.5 hours with each community to determine priorities from a development, site, land use, infrastructure, brownfield, and zoning perspective. And we did that back in October. And we're working right now on development testing that's been informed by that for these Group A communities. And really that is going to set the stage for ultimate recommendations from a land use and zoning perspective, as well as identifying infrastructure needs in the area. And as I mentioned earlier, we're working closely with NICD. Next slide, please. So further process and progress, we wanted to just outline some very high level priorities that we've been working with initially with the communities to help you to understand how each of these planning efforts has similar aspects, but then also that there's some custom components we're looking at for each community that's been calibrated to their needs. So as we look at the town of Munster, and in particular the Ridge Road Station area, we're understanding what property is potentially developable, both in the near term, so vacant sites, as well as in a longer term with potential for redevelopment sites. We're integrating the recent streetscape work and planning that the town has done into this effort to make sure that as we're doing our development testing and as we're looking at sites and land use, that we're also integrating the newest and best information that they've completed as a community. We're doing a number of development tests on sites that we've discussed closely with town officials, and we're going to determine the impacts of those future developments on the community so we can get a really clear picture of how this TOD area or TOD village can perform at various levels in the future. That'll also inform the future land use planning and how development can occur over time. We're reviewing infrastructure capacity to understand what barriers may exist to development and exactly kind of what level of development could be supported with current infrastructure, as well as if there's any upgrades needed. And we're helping the town to prepare for their future comprehensive plan update, as well as understanding some specific components of their zoning code, which they recently updated, and making some tweaks. Next slide. And then a lot of those things apply to Main Street as well, and kind of the Main Street area. We're looking closely at the NICD commuter lot, understanding what could be done in the future with that large commuter parking lot, and if there could be some joint development there in the future. We're doing some concept planning for Main Street. The town wishes to improve upon Main Street to the station area, kind of from Calumet west to kind of the driveway, which would take you into the NICD parking area, and understanding how that can be a complete street and be integrated with trail planning that the town has already done. And then again, making some tweaks to the zoning code to help them kind of prepare for the development that they want to see in this area. Next slide. We've also been working closely with the city of Hammond at both their gateway and downtown area, which is all part of one TDD area. And we're really prioritizing a number of sites near the Gateway Station, as well as looking at connectivity planning in the community, improving upon both underway infrastructure improvements to Gosselin and Chicago, as well as looking at maybe rerouting some truck traffic and providing some recommendations there to allow for a more walkable district to occur in concurrence with their infrastructure investments. We're going to be doing development testing on key sites similarly in this area, both in the area around Gateway Station and advancing some of the recent work that they've done as part of their downtown plan in the downtown area. We're going to be determining impacts, understanding infrastructure capacity as well as needs, and really helping them to update their future land use mappings to be integrated into a future city-led area plan. We're also looking at their zoning and providing some focused recommendations, building upon work that's been done both in their downtown plan and their Westlake plan. Next slide, please. We've been working closely also with City of Portage, and really there's a lot of work that we kind of have underway with each of these communities, but we've been working closely to understand priority sites in this area, noting that this is a little different than most of the TOD areas in that there is a lot of greenfield property available, and a lot of it is controlled by one entity. We're looking at connectivity planning informed by previous city planning for Burns Parkway extension, as well as the Marquette plan. We're doing a number of development tests for the City of Portage, really linking back to their North Side master plan and advancing some of the concepts therein, working through potential impacts as well as infrastructure needs, noting that Burns Parkway will be a new road connection further northward, helping them update their planning as well as their zoning, as they have an existing PD zoning district in this area that will be helping them tweak to support the development they'd like to see. And lastly, helping them prepare for an RFP for a development site in the area. Next slide. And then Michigan City. So understanding development potential around the 11th Street station area, in addition to the recent RFP that the city has released for the station, the city and NICD have released for the station area site. We're looking at connectivity improvements to Franklin Street and potentially advancing some thoughts around not only complete streets, but maybe some one-way conversion. We're looking at a number of development sites kind of in and around their downtown area that they see as having real opportunity for TOD development and investment. We're looking at the impacts and the infrastructure needs in those areas, as well as helping them update the momentum plan that they have through our future land use planning network can get integrated. And then they have an existing TOD zoning district, and so we'll be helping them make some potential changes to that area as well. Next slide. So I'll pause for a moment actually and see if there's any questions on Group A. And I'm actually going to ask if you're not muted, can you please mute yourself? Getting a little feedback noise here. So, or maybe, thank you. Are there any questions on Group A before I move on to Group B, which is the process we're commencing here shortly? So Group B with our TOD study, so that would be Town of Dyer, City of East Chicago, City of Gary, looking at Miller, and Town of Ogden Dunes. So those will be Group B as we're beginning to focus, and I'll be sending out a doodle poll here shortly to Group B communities to schedule both our initial kickoff and then also start gathering materials for in-person workshops, which will take place a little later this fall and into the winter. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any further questions and or turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you very much, Aaron, for your presentation. It was very informative. Can you tell me, with respect to the City of Gary Miller, who is your point of contact with the city for that, coordinating those efforts?
Sure. So we've been working directly with AJ Bittner on previous efforts.
Great.
And if that's the person who we should continue to work with, that's I know that's who, I actually have a voicemail from him a little earlier today. So that's who we've been in close contact with.
Okay, very good. Yes, AJ is the key person for that, and I'm sure he will communicate that information to the mayor's office accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any more questions of Aaron? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Let's move on to a development review with Mark Blyer and Skylar York.
Sure, this is Dave again. Mark is having some technical difficulties, though I do believe he was able to call in. Mark, are you there?
Yeah, I am on, but apologies, I can't see the presentation. So, yeah, I'm happy to provide an update. Are we on the Michigan City or running on to the industry day?
Right now, we're on the industry days. I can kind of run everybody through it real quick here, since I have the presentation up in front of me, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, feel free, and I can just add in.
Sure. We've conducted 2 industry days so far. These are, as Sherry mentioned earlier, opportunities for the communities and developers to come together and learn about both the transit development districts and what specific communities have in mind for TOD in their around their stations. The first one was held on September 22nd, featuring Munster and Portage. We had 7 development groups participating, and we had good presentations from both AJ Monroe in Portage and Dustin Anderson, the town manager of Munster. And they described the key opportunities, and in each of their towns, they did an absolutely bang up job. And then a second industry day was held on October 27th, featuring the Hammond Gateway Station, and also looking at the downtown station. We had 10 developers in that particular meeting. And again, they looked at the upcoming opportunities in the gateway and downtown areas. And we had a number of questions from developers on exactly how the TDDs would function, which is not surprising. So that's kind of an update on where we are on our industry days. I'd like to thank KPMG and MKSK for their help on this. They were very instrumental in helping us attract so many developers to these days. I don't know, is there anything that you'd like to add, Mark?
No, I think both of they've been very successful so far, certainly generating a lot of interest, and as we can see, as the numbers increase, I think we have, some upcoming industry days as well in Q1 2022. The dates haven't been set yet, but I would anticipate that we'll see, additional interest as this continues to grow for those upcoming dates. And I think we did learn, ways to give the communities more opportunity, to describe their upcoming opportunities, and we'll continue to focus on that in the upcoming, industry days.
Thanks. Do we have any questions from the committee about the industry days? And there is a slide on the upcoming days later in the presentation. All right, hearing none. We'll move on to looking at an update on Michigan City. This is Michigan City, as I'm sure everyone is aware, recently issued a request for proposals for the 11th Street project. They have held a developer information session in October. The RDA was present there and was able to also present the TDDs to the developers who attended and help educate them. So sort of a mini industry day for Michigan City there. And they have a final submission deadline coming up here in just a few weeks. At this point, hang on, let me us the next one. They have 3 teams who have submitted notices of intent to submit responses to the request from Farpoint, Wabash, Flaherty and Collins, and NWI Development. I know Skylar, you had offered to say a few words about the RFP. Is there any new information that you can add?
Can everyone hear me okay? So the letter of intent was not a hard requirement, but we did want to get an idea of how many people were going to submit. There may be 1 or 2 more submittals from what I'm hearing by the 10th of December. But the 3 that we got, I would say they're pretty strong submittals right now. It's just kind of telling us their intent and kind of theoretically what the uses would be there. So there are there's 2 different uses. Farpoint Wabash is proposing more of a institutional use there. Flaherty Collins are more residential mixed use. I'm sorry, let me back up. Farpoint Wabash is more institutional mixed use. And then Flaherty and Collins is more residential mixed use. And then Northwest NWI Development, I think, is a more residential mixed use as well. Obviously, with the garage and the all of them have the component of the garage and the station in them. Other than that, that's really where we're at right now. We've had lots of questions about, you can see on our website, we've done a pretty good job on our website of answering all the questions, making sure that they're transparent, that we're being transparent, and that the questions are answered, and that everybody has access to the questions being answered. I'll see if I can think of anything else to add into this. I can't think of anything else unless you have questions right now. We're just kind of waiting on the full proposals to come in. That's kind of an exciting point. We have established a selection committee that's composed of 7 members. And that selection committee is made up of a few residents with architectural backgrounds or urban design backgrounds, and members of, say, the park board, members of the redevelopment commission, historic review board, as well as myself. So we've got a pretty good selection committee that will review these once they've been reviewed by our consultants and MKSK and financial analysts. And then we will get it to the selection committee, and they will basically make a recommendation for ranking them, and then make a recommendation of who we think should be, who should make a full-blown presentation, and then we will move forward with getting a development agreement in place. Any questions on anything I can answer? Process, procedure, anything like that?
Skylar, do you have the RFP document? I'd just be curious or interested to just glance at it.
I do. I don't have. I can share a link with you, and you can get the RFP. I think I might have a digital copy. I'm sure I have a digital. I just want to make sure I have the most current one that's posted. But it is posted, and what we're calling the process or the project is, we're calling it 11th Street Central. It would be the name of the RFP.
Yep.
We see it as kind of establishing a new central element of our downtown. So that's kind of what we're calling it. But yeah, I can get that out to you. Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Skylar.
I will say just one more thing. The RFP was a collaborative effort between the city, I think RDA, Vince, I forgot the name. I had a moment. Vince helped us out a lot. It was really a collaborative effort, but ultimately it was written or put together by NCI, Ruth Worma, and Terry Haymaker. So so I just wanted to get that out there. It wasn't a product of necessarily my product. It was a product of a kind of a collaborative effort between really good, really, people who kind of were really informed about these RFPs and things of that nature. So thank you all for helping me do that.
Sure. Well, thank you, Skylar. And while I have you, while we have you here, let me just ask a quick question about the news that came out this morning. That
Yes.
there's another development that's happening in Michigan City that TRG Community Development announced a 200-unit apartment complex, multi-use complex. What's going on there on 8th Street and Michigan?
So that's another, it's another, so this is our first one that I wanted to get out the door. I've been working on this one for approximately 18 months going on. It's taken us a while to get, we brought them in town. It's the Richmond group, and they looked at a few sites. They really liked the site on 8th and the Boulevard. It has some water access to it. This project is it's going to be an attainable housing project, and so workforce housing. It's something that I think we need to be preparing for in our cities, and so this will be our first kind of step into that. I think they're the 7th or 8th largest maybe apartment complex builder, and they're pretty. They have good members of their team. What else can I tell you about them? I'm very excited about it. They're excited. It's within, it's still on a bus line. Once the TOD project gets in place, the goal is to change around how our bus system works here, so that we kind of have a hub and spoke or a system. And right now, everything kind of goes to the library. The goal is everything will go to this transit station and kind of be centrally located there. So they're very excited to be part of, I wouldn't say they're not within the 0.25 distance of kind of walking distance, but they are right at the edge of that. And it's just kind of our first apartment complex that's going to be coming out of the ground. They are on the trail, so they're very excited about that as well. So they have a few amenities that they wanted to capitalize on and saw as a bonus to being on the 8th and Boulevard development area. So yeah, and it's in the TDD. You might have seen it. It's actually one of the kind of the little fingers that comes off of the TDD that we're establishing. So it's kind of our first development that we're seeing. We have about 3 other development proposals right now in the hopper that we're working through that on land that we own, the city owns, and that's land that the Redevelopment Commission owns, the TRG project. We're currently programming, if we can get them all in place, about 500 apartment units. So we'll wait to see more to come.
Terrific news. All right, if there's no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I'm excited to see all the progress that's happening in Group A, and very excited about being a part of Group B coming down the pipe. So thank you very much for all the hard work that everyone is doing there. David, if you want to proceed with the next item on the agenda, which is the 2022 outlook.
Sure.
Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Just to give a quick update on where we are right now in terms of the boundary, the drawing up the TDD boundaries and our public engagement projects. You can see here where we have drawn the boundaries and completed public engagements, the number of our communities, and we have another 5 where we are still in the process of actually drawing the boundary. Our hope is to get all of these boundaries drawn and all of our thus then public engagement sessions done in 2022. We want to kind of wrap this effort, this portion of the effort up as much as possible. So if there are any communities on this list that are your communities to the committee, anything you can do to help us move that process along would be greatly appreciated. And I will say that just last week, Mr. Barry and Porter did swap some emails with us and indicate that they want to get that ball rolling again there. So that is starting to get back underway. And then in addition to the drawing up the boundaries in 2022, we have some upcoming industry days. The next one on the list is for the Gary Miller Station. That is going to happen in late January or early February. We have not quite finalized a date for that yet. And again, we're working with AJ Binter in Gary on coordinating everything there for that. And then we have East Chicago and Dyer coming up Q1 and Q2. If we could do both in Q1, that would be great. But certainly those are the next two on the list. And then as more boundaries are finalized and more public engagement sessions are completed, we'll then move on to industry days for all of our other communities as well. So let me just stop here and ask, are there any questions on the status of the TDD boundaries or the upcoming industry days? All right, hearing none. The last item is just a little bit of housekeeping details for the committee. The committee membership acts on a yearly basis, so all of our committee members must be reappointed at the start of every year. I will be getting reappointment letters out to the various appointing authorities here in the next week or so. And I will copy all the current members of the committee on that. So that could be something that you might want to flag to your appointing authority moving forward if you'd like to remain on the committee. I also sent out a proposed 2022 meeting calendar. It maintains our current third Wednesday of every third month and 11 a.m. schedule that we've been following. So if that's all right with everyone, obviously that's a committee-wide decision. And then just a note that we will need to elect a new chair at the first meeting of 2022, which as proposed would be in the third Wednesday in February. So if there are any questions there or any other questions, we'll be happy to answer those. All right, hearing none, I will turn it back over to our chair. Mr. Mayor, that's the presentation.
Thank you very much, David. Appreciate that. Let me take a look and see. I believe, did we include next steps and questions? I didn't see anybody with any questions. This would be your last opportunity if you thought of anything while we have everyone on the line. All right, I don't think that we do. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Enjoy the time with your families. And does this mark our last meeting of the year? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well then let me also say happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we look forward to seeing you in 2022. We stand adjourned.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good meeting.